Hey guys, Ashley D. Will here, and I wanted to give a little bit more on complex trauma. I told you that I would let you know if any more memories came up, and two more memories have come up, and so I just want to share them with you real quick. But before I share the two memories, I wanted to just emphasize that this was psychologically traumatic for me. Being raised in a very lavish environment with a silver spoon in my mouth, if you will. Silver dishes. Everything was the finest on the outside, but on the inside, all of this was going on. And so I couldn't reconcile the two worlds, the inner world and the outer world. And it hurt my brain. Those circumstances were very difficult for me to process. In fact, I never did process them until a few years ago. So that has been very difficult for me. And but the struggle here was, what is reality? What is reality? I can't reconcile anything. But the one main thing that has happened is the Lord has reconciled them in Himself, in my relationship with Him, and in the Spirit. I can now reconcile the two. But before knowing Him like I do now, I just couldn't do that in my mind. Anyway, but the two memories that came up, the first one was the ashtray fight. Now, my parents laugh about this today, but for me and my brother, it was not funny. I don't know if we can laugh about it now, but it surely was not funny when it happened. I was probably 6 or 7 and he was 4 or 5. We had parents that never really argued or fought. I did hear some arguing and a little bit of tension in the front seat on the way down to the coast where my dad was raised, and we were down there all the time. But I would hear a little bit there, but it wasn't anything that upset me. It just was immaterial, and I didn't even notice it. So, but one day, it was a Saturday, it must have been, and we were in the living room. My parents were in the living room, and then somehow we came in there for some reason. And my dad was standing by the door, and my mom was sitting on the sofa, and they started to argue openly. So you have to understand that for all of our lives, or all of my life and my brother, we had never heard them really argue. And so this was like a nuclear bomb going off in our family. So this was very, very traumatic for both of us. So my mom started and my dad started arguing, and it was just got a little sharper and a little more escalated, and we were very uncomfortable, and we didn't know what to do. And then it got so intense, and of course this had been brewing for many years, obviously, but it got so intense. There was this big crystal lead ashtray on the coffee table in the living room, and it was heavy. And when I was that age, I had to use 2 hands to pick it up. My mom lost it and stood up off the sofa, picked up that ashtray and threw it at my dad, and it hit the wall. And it fell to the ground. It didn't break. And he just didn't know what to do. And so it kind of deflated then. And he left. He ended up leaving. And in the middle of this fight, after my mom stood up and did that, my brother and I were crying and screaming. And we ran back into the kitchen under this bar by the back door. And we were huddling together and shaking and crying under the bar. We were so terrified. And so they laugh about it today, the ashtray fight. But my brother and I always look at each other like, oh my goodness, we're not laughing. So that memory came back. And then I also remember this one was pretty bad. I was at the dentist, and I must have been around 11. And it had to be the dentist because, I think he was prepping me to get braces later. Anyway, I had to have 4 teeth pulled, 4 molars pulled. And so I didn't know it at the time, obviously, because I'm in my 50s now, but then I was 11. But I need 5 shots of Novocaine to do anything in my mouth because I can still feel it. First shot does nothing. Second shot does hardly anything. Third shot, I can still kind of feel it. Fourth, it's partially gone, and 5th, it knocks it out. So I was at this dentist, and he gave me a round of Novocaine and came back later and tried to pull the teeth. And I said, no, I can feel it. And I think he gave me another round of Novocaine, and he came back around, and I said, no, I can still feel it. And I can't remember if he did another one after that, but he grew impatient with my He didn't know it at the time, but my sensitivity, he thought I was just being, a hypochondriac or something. But anyway, he went ahead and twist, yank, pulled out all 4 of those teeth, and I felt the whole thing. And after that, I didn't tell anybody because I was still believing what I did when I was 5 years old, which could have been true, and I wasn't willing to risk it, that if I said anything, there's a big chance that no one would respond or I would be dismissed. And that would be more painful. So I just said, no way. There wasn't even an option for me to tell anyone what happened. So anyway, those are just a couple of more memories that have come up recently. So I just promised that I would share these. So I'm sharing them. So if y'all want to leave comments or anything or ask me any questions, I'm here. I'm an open book. So I hope y'all have a great week, and I'll see you soon.